roll my.
The cuffs are off, man.
Hey everybody, Adam Rank here.
What's up, friends? Daniel Dopp here from the Fantasy Focused Football Podcast over on ESPN.
It's Fabs here, Michael Fabiano from Sports Illustrated.
You know who you can trust if you've got some questions about your fantasy squad?
Want to check out a cool show on YouTube that'll help you get ready for the fantasy football season?
Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network.
Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network. If you are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? You want to lose your league?
Head on over to YouTube. Check out the Get Right Fantasy Network because they're doing everything they can to make you a better fantasy player.
You got to get right with the Get Right Fantasy Network.
So go and roll your sleeves up. Yeah, go and roll your sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting down cause I roll my sleeves up. And I'm getting right cause I get.
What up, world? This is FishnFrank here with Get Right Fantasy Network. We're here again on Wednesday night for our buy, sell, trade show. I'm joined here today with Dylan here. What up?
What's going on?
Just getting started here. Let's see what we got going on for today. As again, this is the buy, sell, trade show. We're going to start off with the Thursday night football start sit, go over some injury news and updates, and then Dylan and I go over some top waiver targets here, trade targets, buy, sell, hold, and obviously live Q&A. We're always down for the live Q&A the whole time, so when everybody got some questions in there, please drop them in the chat, and we'll get to it as soon as we can. Let's see what else we got going on here for just kind of go to the show rundown. Let me get this ready here. Sorry, here it is. Monday nights, we do the waiver wire ads and overreaction. Tuesdays is filled with the extra point. We're here Wednesdays here for the roster management, buy, sell, trade. Friday that we do the start sit Q&A, and then Sunday Mike holds it down with the active inactives early Sunday morning before the game start. So that's what we got going on here with Get Right Fantasy Network. So check us out, follow us here, and turn on your notifications so you know when we're on. So yeah, that's the show rundown. Let's see, you got any feedback from this weekend's games before we start going here?
Like from this past weekend?
Yeah.
Man, another rough one if you are a Jahmyr Gibbs, Saquon Barkley, or Puka owner. And unfortunately, I am, most weeks fortunately, but this week I owned all three. And my team put up 96 points in a 2-flex PPR league. So it was a rough one, hopefully better days ahead for everybody.
Yeah.
I think I like to refer to certain NFL weeks that are particularly brutal for a lot of very good players as drunk weeks. They're the NFL is just drunk. You've got Rico Dowdle putting up another 200 yards. We're in the twilight zone, and some weeks that's what's going to happen. And unfortunately for some of us, it puts a great roster to 2-4. So,
yeah, that happens, man. It's tough. I mean, we're almost halfway here getting to the season, so you got to really buckle down with your rosters and make sure you dial them in and try to avoid these pitfalls. I mean, you can't afford to avoid the injuries, but I mean,
of course,
Derrick Henry even just having a shitty day, and there's so many players. But finally, BTJ did good. So yeah. Anyway,
I do want to shout out real quick your current. Sorry, this has been a long time coming, Frank. It's been since 2021, I think, that I can say this. Your current first place AFC East team, the New England Patriots, are so back. That was one of my biggest takeaways is that, the Patriots are looking great. The Bills lost on Monday Night Football. Now the Patriots are the first place in the AFC East. Man, it's getting scary. It's getting scary if you're a Buffalo fan.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was actually
me too.
I was like, whoa. They're taking it. taking a beating on this one.
Yeah, I was hoping, after that.
I was waiting for them to come back, but it didn't happen.
Me too. I was waiting for Bijan to kind of cool off because I was up by, I think, 20 points or so, and he had Bijan and Keon Coleman, and I was hoping that Keon wouldn't do anything, and I saw that Bijan 81-yard rushing touchdown, and I just put my phone down. I just went to bed.
It's over.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, if you join us here, please do help us out, support the channel with the super chats. We'll definitely get you your question right away and spend some time on it. Give us the best insight that we have available. But at this time, it is time to roll our sleeves up and get back to work here. We got bye weeks here coming up. Week 7, Baltimore Ravens and Buffalo Bills. I do want to mention also the bye NATO after that with week 8 is Arizona Cardinals, Detroit Lions, Jacksonville Jaguars, Las Vegas Raiders, Los Angeles Rams, and Seattle Seahawks are off. So don't get caught with your pants down. Make sure you start getting prepared now and you do your waiver wires early so that when week 8 comes along, you're prepared to make sure you have a good, decent starting lineup because people kind of let it creep up on you and you don't forget that when you drafted originally, it told you, oh, this is the 1 week spot where you're you got one too many players down. You know what I mean?
My whole roster's dead next week.
Yeah.
I think I've got Jahmyr Gibbs. I've got Puka. He's injured, but then I've also got JSN all on bye. So it's grim.
Right. But up top here, I'll be getting to your question here soon enough. Let's see who else got some stuff going on. So we got Thursday night football here. The Pittsburgh Steelers at Cincinnati Bengals. The Steelers are 4-1. The Bengals are 2-4. Why don't you give us the betting odds currently is Cincinnati plus 5.5 points on that. So, what do you got here first? I see you got some notes here on some scoring.
Yeah. So, in terms of the last 6 matchups completed between the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers from 2022 to their last one, these teams averaged 49.83 points per game. Surprisingly higher than most of the normal AFC North contests. Obviously recently with the banged up Bengals from the last multiple years now, we've got, the Steelers have had the upper hand in a lot of those matchups. And funny enough, it's one of the only AFC North matchups that's a high scoring affair most of the time. And thank God this isn't a London game or anything like that where it's even crazier. I think Joe Flacco last week put up a good amount of he gained a lot of trust, I think, from that Cincy wide receiver group.
Yeah.
That second half against the Packers, he just decided that it was Jamar Chase time. And that's the thing, is in these AFC North matchups, man, every game is like a playoff game. You expect the best players to do the best. And that's kind of what leads to these Bengals Steelers matchups having a lot of points scored.
And that's what you need for fantasy right there, man. You just want these high scoring games where they're just going off back and forth. And I agree with you. He did towards the end of the game. It was chase time, and he was just peppering. He was and he could get hot like that over here, especially if they, obviously they have another full week of practice, which really is tough because you mentioned it's a Lundy game, so they have to probably fly early, get over there. So it makes it a little bit more travel time than normal, I think.
Yep.
So what else we got going on here? Is that good with the scoring part of it?
Yep. So we've got currently when it comes to fantasy production, the Steelers run a lot more zone than they do man, which is at least through this last week, which is funny enough because the Steelers are a team that's kind of built for man coverage. Obviously since they've been banged up a little bit, a lot of the time too, they're kind of looking to get home now with the pass rush and less so with the secondary now that, Alex Highsmith is around and TJ Watt. So they're running zone coverage about 61% of the time and man coverage about 35% of the time with about 3 to 4% just situational coverage schemes like a lock scenario or, like a cover 6 or something like that. So they're leaning more towards zone. So I would say, for for a team that has been running a lot of zone, I would expect the same thing to happen this week because of a Jamar Chase, because it's so, imperative that you bracket a guy like that and you put two people on him. You could see a lot from T. Higgins this week. I think you could see a lot from Chase Brown in terms of in the passing game. And then the Bengals, they're historically a zone-based team. They've been running it about 73% of the time this year, and man defense only about 23%, with another 4% of situational coverage schemes. It's almost 3-1, the ratio. Lou Anarumo, he's a guy that, is willing to take what the offense gives him and play everything back a little bit. But, it is, I'm curious to see what it's going to be like with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. A guy who made a career off of being able to dice up opposing zone defenses.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to see if that changes this week. But either way, DK Metcalf is a good play. And that run game, we just saw Josh Jacobs kind of expose the Bengals like a lot of people have been doing in the run game. And so you could see a healthy amount of Jaylen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell in this one.
Nice. So those are the guys that I had sitting down here, mentioning here the quarterbacks and Aaron Rodgers, as you just did. Joe Flacco, we kind of mentioned him peppering there. Chase. But we also got Jonnu Smith here. He's ranked ranks third on the Steelers targets at 20, just behind DK at 31, right? As you mentioned, that Kenneth Gainwell's at 22. Yep. And then the Bengals have allowed the most fantasy points to tight ends so far this season. So keep that in mind. Might be a good start for Jonnu Smith here.
That's a lot of these zone teams. A lot of zone teams, when you're running 75% zone coverage, those guys, the flat routes off the inline tight ends, the stuff over the middle. A guy like Jonnu Smith, he could have, I'm not going to guarantee anything, but he could have a massive day tomorrow.
Right. You could keep an eye on that for that. And then, Rodgers has been doing Rodgers things. He's actually looking pretty good this year. He's ranked at 28th among quarterbacks here by Fantasy Pros. And, he's given up one touchdown per game this season. So the Bengals have. So, it bodes well for him and at least get minimum one touchdown. We got Jamar Chase here, getting a lot of the volume. He leads the Bengals in receptions and yards, and 42 receptions, 468 yards on 57 targets, and he has 4 touchdowns on the season. So the Steelers defense is a good tough pass defense. So it's it should be a good game. I'm looking forward to it. Chase Brown,
nasty, man. They get nasty.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Teams.
they do. And then we got the Browns here. I couldn't think of the guy's name right now. I was going to bring up, but I'll move on. I just don't know what to make of him. I hopefully he turns the ship around here. That Flacco's out there, he even hoeing it, and maybe it opens up for room for him to run. But as my friend Anthony said, he was basically one touchdown away from having a decent game. So hopefully he can get something going this weekend. Are you starting him?
I mean, if you're in like a deeper league, like a 14-team league, and you're looking for someone that maybe can give you a little bit of juice that isn't, going up against a Philly or going up against a KC or something like that, then maybe Flacco would start. I think maybe in a super flex league, you could start Flacco. I think with the Steelers run defense, it's sort of like, weirdly enough, I look at Flacco like I look at Matt Stafford. He's a guy who, against a really good run defense, is going to, if they score touchdowns, they're going to be through the air. And especially knowing that the Steelers run a lot of zone this season, it just means more opportunities, for blown coverages, more opportunities for guys like Jamar Chase and T. Higgins to get one-on-one coverages near the goal line. And Flacco, I mean, love him or hate him, I think he's a great option for the Bengals because he doesn't really turn the ball over when he's in structure. I know with the Browns this season, it was a little rough to start. But that Packers game, he looked really composed. He played on 5 days' notice after getting the playbook. I thought he was going to play a lot worse than he did, and it wouldn't shock me if you see Flacco at the end of the night have 2 touchdowns and no interceptions.
Right?
Like,
I mean, he's a professional, dude. The guy's been around for a while, so
yeah.
He's doing so is not that hard for him. You could get, he could get some playbook himself down and go like, look, let's get these. We'll memorize some names or use. They just use nomenclature that everybody uses, so it's not for him to catch on to what the play is. So yeah, we definitely started Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. Iffy on Chase Brown there, but George Pickens as well here. So. We have injuries to Hudson, the tight end. He has said he's questionable in Cincinnati. The Steelers got Calvin Onson, the third wide receiver, arm questionable also. And Mike Gesicki with his torso, he's out. So bodes well here for these guys. So on that, we got a recap here for Thursday night. Let's go into our news topics, basically injury updates here. But before we do, actually, let me go here because Top's been waiting for a little while. And we got a couple other ones coming in here from Perk Almighty and Smokey the Cat. So we'll get to you guys right here in a sec. So he's got half point PPR, sit 1, Sutton, Debo, BTJ, Brees Hall.
Ooh, that's a tough one. I definitely wouldn't sit BTJ. I think this is one of those situations, and I think I mentioned this to you last week. There are situations where I will choose to start a guy purely based on who would I be more mad at myself with if I didn't start them. And I think if I'm sitting one here, the guy that if he popped off and I sat him that I would be the least mad at would probably be Courtland Sutton. It wouldn't shock me if Brees Hall didn't have too great of a day considering all of the trade rumors and stuff like that. I think maybe, he's a little bit of a time bomb because you're about to see if he's, going to be a trade target. If we see more of Isaiah Davis and we see more of Braylon Allen, if it's going to be a thing where, Brees Hall's actually going to be traded, it's tough with these running backs because, they'll sit guys, so that they can get their return on their investment. Personally, I would sit Sutton. I think Debo, he's just a guy that it's so you play him and you hope he scores a touchdown, and most of the time he does. But I think any of these guys I wouldn't be mad at outside of BTJ. I think you have to start BTJ.
Nice. I'm kind of right there with you. I think BTJ just had that good last week, and hopefully he keeps it rolling. Debo, like you said, he somehow is able to score a touchdown or just gets you enough. Where on average he's had four double-digit games and 2 single-digit games. So that's not too bad considering here for Debo. And he has a matchup against Dallas this weekend, who they've been historical shootouts, and Dallas just doesn't have a defense this year. So I would be starting that guy.
And if only Dallas had like a really, really good edge rusher. You know what I mean?
If only, right?
If only.
Brees, he's only had 3 double-digit games out of the last 6 here. He's playing against Carolina, who did just beat Dallas, but I mean, let's see how they really are. You know what I mean? But again, like you were mentioning, the trade rumors just doesn't bode well. But I'm still taking a shot with them. He still is yet to score a touchdown this year. So
that's crazy.
Maybe he gets it done, especially because he probably wants to in order for him to have value, he needs to be putting up a good game for kind of hopefully get a better team or get better money. Obviously, you know what I mean.
Yep.
So I'm with you. I think Sutton is the one that I would easily bench. Just based on his overall performance so far this year and his numbers. I mean, he's got 2 double-digit games, but I mean, he has one that was 0.6, wasn't even a full point, then 1.7 performance here this last week. So they definitely got some low lows right there. They're hitting the New York Giants this next game here, so not a bad matchup. I mean, not like the Giants are doing great, but
I mean, hey, there's a spark. There's a little spark.
Yeah, just looking at the upside and the opposition that they're playing, I'm sitting Sutton on that. Perk Almighty coming in. What's up, brother? I'm 4-2 Puka owner. I got a trade on the table: Saquon, T. Higgins, and Addison for Puka and Downs. I take it. It's not looking for. It's not looking for week 7 or 8 for me. Full PPR, Flowers on bye, and he
take that.
And he puts up the rest of his team. He's got Mahomes, Gibbs, Giante. That's what I said right there. CD, which is injured, coming back hopefully this week. Puka, who just went down. Josh Downs, who's had a pretty decent game here, coming back here. Laporta, you're keeping it with him. He's got Judkins and Rashad White at flex, super flex. Dak, that's a nice setup, man. That's a nice team, especially Dak throwing some numbers up now. 12 teams, it's Dynasty, but there's a league reset next season. Oh, I mean, interesting. So I wanted to just kind of go through that whole thing before we answer, because I want to get back up to the trade, because now that he says it's Dynasty, that changes things. But then he's also saying, well, there's a reset next season.
It's essentially a redraft.
Yeah, if you're going to redraft next season, well, trade off wherever you need to trade off to make your team better.
I don't know if I take Saquon for Puka rest of season, though. And that's coming from someone who has Saquon and Puka.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad offer, though, because Saquon is the piece, obviously, right here. He just had one down game, but obviously he's been featured by Philly. I mean, it's literally a running game now. It's not even a passing game. That's why we're talking about AJ and whatever here, because they're not Devontae Smith. They're just not getting any catches. Devontae Smith has actually been have better, decent games, but it's just dismal over there for the passing offense, period. And if they get close to the goal line, it's a tush push. So I mean, it's kind of the Jalen Hurts is not having bad numbers, but it is Saquon's show. So that being said, I mean, you got T. Higgins on Cincinnati, who just had a decent game, but how long it's got to continue? We got to see how he does with Flacco, as we're talking about. But Addison's solid. I really do like Addison to move Puka and Downs.
We do have McCarthy coming back this week potentially, though. And that's a little nerve-wracking if you're a Jefferson and Addison owner. That's
because
sure.
you're also not going to have Puka for like 2 weeks at least.
Yeah, I think it's this week, and then he's on bye next week. And from everything I've gathered,
let me look at my notes. How about that? Let's check it later. Puka Nacua here. He's out expected until week 9. So he suffered a foot ankle sprain. Week 6, Rams have a bye, and week 8 bye. So week 6, and then the Rams have a week 8 bye, so he won't be coming out until week 9.
So he out this week, by next week. I think the number one player in fantasy football. I think it's one of those situations, man, where like you could be a lot worse than 4-2. I think there's a certain amount of wins that kind of get you to the playoffs, and I do think that Puka is a guy where, by the time the playoffs start, if you're in there and you don't have him anymore, that's going to hurt, especially if you have to play the guy who has him when he puts up 36 in a week on 15 catches and 160 yards and a touchdown. Like, I think at 4-2, I think you have the luxury of being able to keep him because he puts up so many points every week. And CD's about to come back. Worst case scenario, you're 4-4 by week 9, and
that's good enough, man.
Yeah, now I think 4 more wins gets you to the dance. As long as you get to the playoffs, that it's something that I used to not believe in a whole lot. I used to think I want to dominate all year long.
Yeah, the first, yeah,
I want to be first seed. I want to dominate. I want to be first in points scored. Man, I'm telling you, I think more teams in my home fantasy league have won the championship with single-digit wins than teams with double-digit wins. Like that's just the way that it goes, man. Like
I'm right there with you. Man.
Like
I used to tell Anthony that.
Man, like Kyle Monungai might go for 40 points in the week before the championship and knock you out. Like fantasy can be really cruel.
Yeah.
you just got to hope that you put yourself in the best position possible. And I think that Puka Nacua being the number one player in all of fantasy puts you in the best position possible over another trade.
Yeah. And I agree with you there, because You don't have to be first, man. I think more often than not, and I think for years, I think Anthony finally broke the curse. But literally, our number one never won.
Yep, that's what it was for my league too.
Number one never won the league. It was always somebody in the middle or below that won. It was being top 3 wasn't even the best because you got a good record, but by the time you got there, your guys are injured.
Of course,
not gelling right. Things happen that because whereas a guy who's 6-4, whatever, just a lower end record that made it to the playoffs got there because his players already went through the injuries. They already went through all these other garbage that you had to go through. They're good now.
And this guy had the number 1 waiver priority a couple of times, whereas if you're like number 10 or if you're doing fab, maybe you don't pick up that great player. I think I've been the number 1 seed in my league. I want to say I've been in there for close to 7 or 8 years now. I've been the number 1 seed 5 out of the 8 years. I only won a playoff game one of those years, and I won the championship. 4 years of being the number 1 seed, getting a first round bye, did not win a game. So all that matters, dude, is as long as you get to the dance, like if you've got the number 1 player in fantasy, you just trust him. Trust him. That's all you can
do. Hold on to that guy. Hold on to him. Yep. So we got Smoke of the Cat going and say, what up, guys? Do you know how Yahoo determines matchups for the season? I've faced the highest scoring team every single week. I'm 2-4, outscored every other team aside from the opponents in 5-6 week 5 and 6 here.
I can answer this because I have played in Yahoo leagues before.
Is it truly random by those rankings, Yahoo, for each manager? Like diamond, platinum, gold, silver, bronze?
So what Yahoo does is every season, if you're in a redraft, what Yahoo will do is it will take the ELO, the expected level rating, or whatever that term means. It's essentially your player rating. My first year in a Yahoo league, I went like 14-2 or something like that, and I ended up in the platinum league or diamond. I don't remember what it was, but it was like the first thing that I ever saw. And the next season, a lot of my bye weeks for a lot of my players, they generated the schedule around the toughest matchups for me would be on my bye weeks. So Yahoo kind of does their own thing when it comes to scheduling. I will say for most redraft leagues, though, they do rank it prior to the season. So like, your matchup isn't going to change next week based on who's the highest scoring player. But they will put you in tough positions if you are a higher ranked player. And I guess that's just kind of the way that it goes. I will say, I don't think it's unfair, but I do think though that it's not random, which I think a lot of people like. They like to randomize the schedule before they go into the season, and Yahoo doesn't seem to do that. However, like Smokey, I wouldn't necessarily worry about it for the rest of the season. It's just the way that they put the schedule together prior to, based on ELO, because no one can guess what. Frank, did we know that Jackson Smith and Jigba was going to be a top 2 receiver in the NFL this year? I don't think anyone did, so they put you together schedule wise based on rating.
You don't know whose players are not going to get injured, whose players are not, what trades you make during the season.
That Rico Dowdle's going to put up 400 yards in 2 weeks.
Eventually, the way I look at it is eventually you're going to play everybody in your league once. And there's only a couple players that you play 2-3 times, and that's it. Like, look at the schedule. You play everybody in your league once, and there's a couple guys that you play a couple times. And now, are those guys the diamond platinum guys every one, or are they not? Like, I don't think it matters that much at the end of the day.
It doesn't.
Like, it's so, like, fantasy football is just so up and down, crazy. Like you said, you don't know who's going to be the next guy that just blows up anyways, and you drafted him in the 8th round.
Man, I truly believe there's still, I think I'm pretty good at finding the gold mines and the waiver wire, especially when it comes to rolling waivers. I still think there's a darling out there that hasn't been touched yet, that I can't guess who it is because if I could, then I would have him on my roster.
Right.
But I just, it's one of those seasons where I'm sure we all remember the Cordero Patterson year where this guy just turned into a top 10 running back
out of nowhere.
reason. Like
he finally got good for like as long as he's
yep,
been
I still
league.
think there's one guy out there. Maybe that was Kamani Vidal, or Rico Dowdle, but I do think that there's still a guy out there that's going to help some team.
Oh yeah,
win
for
a
sure.
Playoff game.
I think this is the guy right here we're talking about.
I hope so.
Robert 2-2 here. Woody Marks turning up this week. I
hope so.
I just ended up dropping him. I had to make some moves and I had to let him go.
He's starting for me this week.
I haven't seen him get enough touches or looks. I think he's going to be, unfortunately, still like waiting in the wings for have the opportunity. He had one good decent game and he hasn't come back since with any kind of like
script dependent. Dependent for sure. I do think that Baltimore game was a bit of a fluke when it came to like. I mean, man, we were watching Xavier Hutchinson score touchdowns and Jalen Noel, and it was like everyone but Woody.
I mean, I my hats off to you for starting them or whatever. Maybe you have to because of bias.
I have to.
Yeah. Me personally, I would not be starting him. I would start him in the DFS play though. I'd put a bet on that guy. About rose me right over here to our underdog fantasy. They're the best place we play the pick'ems and things like that with them. So that's the kind of contest that I would be betting on higher or lower on his yardage or touchdowns or whatever, and putting him in a pick like that. So I would start him. I'd feel comfortable once I see a couple consistent weeks or at least consistent touches, consistent looks. If that happens, then the numbers would get better at least, right? If he's getting 10 touches a game, let's see what he does with them. This week it didn't work out, but next week you get those same 10 and he runs for a touchdown, and that's what you're hoping for. But I need to see consistent touches and looks before I start starting them. The next guy you're talking about, sit Debo? Nope. You start Debo. This is the opposite of what you got going on. We were just talking about Debo, and Washington is facing the Cowboys with a bad defense, and the Cowboys games have all been fantasy bonanzas. They're literally just high scoring affairs for everybody involved. Yeah. So you definitely want to start Debo against the Cowboys. So roll with that. Check it out. Super C and B challengers here. Rough bye week. We have 2 open flexes PPR. Could start Wandale, Dobbs, Aya Manor, or I could pick people off like waivers like Gainwell, Juwan, Kirk, Boutier, Downs, or Whittington. So you got 2 open flexes in PPR. Could start Wandale, Dobbs. I'd start Dobbs for one.
Of course,
Romeo Dobbs over there with the Green Bay. He is the touchdown getter over there, and I'd start Wandale. Wandale had a couple decent games. I'm not going to hate on it. And then Aya Manor would be a third guy. I wouldn't bother going to the waiver wire for some of these guys.
I think
maybe Whittington's way down there in the list of that. Yeah, I'd stick with your guys and fire them up. I would maybe even pick up Gainwell just if you have room.
He's not a bad shout, especially against the Titans. Patriots, Titans. I'm a Patriots fan myself. I've been very in tune with all of this. It's the Mike Vrabel revenge game against his old team. They just fired their head coach. So you never know. I do think that Aya Manor, especially with Calvin Ridley's hamstring injury, I think we're still yet to see if he's going to play or not. I'm not entirely sure if I've seen him be ruled out yet.
Even if he does, how is he going to be, right?
Of course. And and if he does, then he's got Christian Gonzalez on him the whole game, and he's got one leg, and he already is terrible this year. Right? Sorry, I'm getting angry because I have Calvin Ridley, and I was so high on him this year, and he's done nothing but disappoint. But Aya Manor, is the type of guy that you see in a game that, the Patriots would play the Bills, and then Isaiah McKenzie goes off for 8 catches and 113 yards. You see someone like Aya Manor who, the Titans are not going to score a lot of points, and you should not bank on Aya Manor for a touchdown. However, I do think that, this guy could, if this is the type of stat line you're looking for, could end up with a 7 for 56 stat line, or a 7 for 60 stat line, get you 12, 13 points. I think there's going to be a lot of completions in this game because the Patriots love to give everything up underneath. We just saw the same thing with Spencer Rattler, and a lot of his guys they're open and they're getting targets. They're not scoring points, but they're kind of making it happen in terms of the stat sheet. I think Ironmaners, to me, I would go Dobbs and Ironmaner. But if you started Wandale, I couldn't hate you. There's a chance, with this Giants offense, they've got some juice. Like he could go for a touchdown. He could go for 100 yards. I think especially with Darius Slayton, being injured, no Malik Neighbors. I've always thought Wan'Dale Robinson prior to Malik Neighbors showing up was the most talented athlete on that offense.
Yeah.
There's just something about Wan'Dale where it's like, I think if you went to literally any other team, I think they could unlock something really special in him. But maybe Jackson Dart can do that. I think at the end of the day, again, pick the guy that is going to make you the least angry if he has a dud game. If you pick Ironmaner and you are just so upset that you didn't pick Wan'Dale, then put in Wan'Dale. If Ironmaner has a big game and you're like, okay, well, I wouldn't have started him anyway, cool. At least you didn't start him. But at least you're not going to go to bed angry that night, knowing that one of the guys you didn't start put up a huge week and it backfired because of it. But I think me and Frank are in the same boat.
Yeah,
it's Dobbs and then your choice of Wan'Dale or Ironmaner. I think you really can't go wrong with either.
Yeah. On that note, we got Perk Almighty coming to W. Win for the advice. Not gonna lie, Obi talked me off the ledge here. Thanks, Frank and Obi. Appreciate it. No worries.
I'm with you. I'm 2-4 right now, and I've got like one of the best rosters I've ever had in my life. I've got like Lamar, Saquon, and Gibbs. I've got JSN and Puka. I've got Tucker Kraft and Jake Ferguson in a 10 team. But the problem is my flexes suck, and now Puka's hurt, and I'm about to have to buy Apocalypse. Like, man, like I wish I was in your position where I could, offer or field offers for Puka because I don't. Man, as long as you can get there, number one player in fantasy. The year that I won my championship, I had the best year in my league's history. I had Tyreek Hill. And I was getting Tyreek Hill for CMC offers all year. And Frank, you remember how good CMC was that year.
Yeah.
Like,
he was on fire.
I was getting offers for CMC all year. And
50 point games up, dude. It was ridiculous.
Yep. You just gotta, if you got the number one player in fantasy, you gotta stick with him unless you can get like the king of kings ransom. Like you need like the second best player in fantasy and then in like an operable flex for that guy.
Nice. So we got another question here coming up from Smokey the Cat. Okay, damn, I'm going to have to restart the league each year. I'm platinum, and every time for the last 3 years, I've been given the first and second hardest schedule for the entire year. Thanks.
It happens, man. It happens. It's a pain in the ass, but well, that's Yahoo leagues for you.
I mean, quite honestly, like I said, I mean, do you really want to play all the easy guys? Is that gonna better your game? Are you gonna get better by winning every time?
Guess what, Frank? What that does to you is it does the same thing that it did to me. 4 out of the 5 years I was the first seed, you get bounced in the first round.
Yeah.
After your bye week, and then there's nothing to hang your hat on. You're just the regular season champ.
Yeah, the better opposition have, the better you play because you have to raise to that level. So don't be scared of having the hard schedule. If anything, rise to the occasion, right?
And hey, you're in platinum for a reason, my man.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I was in platinum too in Yahoo, and that's not an easy feat. Like you've got to seriously have some success. They don't give out platinum for going 10-5 or whatever. Like I think I had 2 losses the whole year and they put me in platinum. So there's a reason. You
have to have those kind of seasons. Yeah. So per K coming in 12 team full PPR. flex one, BTJ or T Max. I'll let you take it right now. One, and I was going to give my take here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's BTJ. I'll keep this short and sweet. I think it's BTJ simply because Jalen Coker's back this week, and Jalen Coker is one of my sneaky waiver wire just pick up and start type of guys. If you've had him on your IR, congratulations, because you've had an open IR spot, which none of us have really been able to have the whole year. But man, Jalen Coker, I think he's going to come back, and I think he's going to make this offense look a lot better. He's got a similar build to Tet. And I think that, he's not going to come back and take his work by any means, but I just think BTJ, for the price that you spent on him and, the level of talent that he has, I think he's just, especially after last week, I think he's just a guy that you got to start. And hey, if your issue is flexing BTJ or T-Mac, you are in an amazing spot, man. In a 12 team, you're great.
Yeah. I'm Tedero side. Honestly, I think that both of them, they both just had literally 15 points and 14.9, like their best games of the season. I see Tet facing with the New York Jets here, and then Brian Thomas Jr. against the Rams. I just wanted, like, I don't know. I just feel like I was looking at the scoring, and it looks like Tet's been giving you a good bit higher average than Brian Thomas. So just on that, I mean, just to be like, okay, past history and what, the Jets are pretty sloppy, man. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they're not playing too well. The Rams got a little bit better defense than just in general. So just on that little edge is what I'm getting. But you're literally 50-50 on those guys, really.
And to play devil's advocate too, I think all of us as football fans know that, these London games are really sloppy, and that's the Rams and Jaguars are playing the London game. I think, you can go at it from a couple of different ways. If it means, enough to you, I know for me, I love watching my players play. If you're like an East Coast guy like myself and you don't want to wake up at 9 a.m. to watch the Rams and the Jaguars play in London, maybe start T-Mac. But we just saw this last London game. It was Broncos and was it Broncos Jets Broncos Jets, and that game was like, I woke up to my opponent having 2 points with Sutton and 1 point with Mason Taylor.
Yeah, it was.
I think I would say,
but the Panthers, I think, have played the most over there.
Yeah, no. The Panthers aren't the ones playing there. It's
Jaguars.
The Jags and the Rams.
But the Jaguars have played the most there. You're right.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yep. But
I
I don't know.
literally wrong team. But I'm just thinking the cat.
Has BTJ played in London yet? I'm not sure.
I thought they played there already this year. Am I tripping? Who's the team that stayed there for 2 weeks? I forgot who it was.
I'm not sure.
Maybe that's already in the past. That's what it is.
Them, I was thinking maybe last year. Like, did BTJ play in London last year? Even then, I think that would be like a slight knock to BTJ. I think, your slight knock to BTJ is London game, and your slight knock to T-Mac is Jalen Coker finally returning off of IR. Again, it's a toss-up.
No, I guess it wasn't. Huh. I was just looking at the Jets, Broncos, Jets, and then it was Vikings, Browns. That they did somewhere else at this Wembley. So yeah. All right. So moving on here. Super CNC Challengers. All right. Thank you so much. No worries, brother. Appreciate it. We got Lee 86 here. Anybody curious how little Jordan Humphrey does? Could be a sneaky good pickup.
You're the Cowboys fan, Frank. I'll let you take this one.
I'm not really sure, man. I think I'm not really sure here. I think he's on the Giants here. He's a little wide receiver for the Giants, a little Jordan Humphrey here. It might be sneaky play, man. You got a good point there, but Dart over there just seems to be more of a running quarterback than anything. But looking at his last game, he had 4 of 8 targets for 55 yards. And that was that win against the Eagles. So, I think he's more of a DFS play than a flex start, if anything. You know what I mean? Again, he's another guy that who were we talking about earlier? That I just feel like if you want to
Very
take upside away,
volatile.
Marks. You know what I mean? He hasn't doing well, but if you stick him in there, he gets your touchdown, and you'd be like the cheap guy, so you get stacked high end on that. But yeah, I mean, it could be a good pickup.
Player, very volatile player.
I just don't see Dart throwing enough and being just a passer. He runs so much that he needs more volume to his receiving core before you pick up a guy that deep into the depth of things here. Yeah. With that being said, let's get back here onto some trade targets. Just want to kind of go over some of the top ones, and you guys can keep up with any other comments or whatever. Let's talk football, but I think we've caught up onto the chats here so far. So I just want to give out the top three waiver targets, and these are the guys that are already on the cover here. Devonta Adams, currently a buy low, and especially with Nakua's injury, it just creates a target vacuum. So try to go after him. I've literally sent trade offers, and hopefully maybe somebody was replying to that. I'm not even sure what happened. I heard my phone going off. I wasn't even looking. I did send a reminder.
I do have a couple of sneaky.
Yeah, the guy's not working.
Yeah, versus Denver, man. That's going to be tough, Lee. That's going to be really tough. I think Surtain, Denver, they haven't shown a whole lot this year in terms of like the defense we thought that they were going to be. But, I could see, I mean, man, like a guy like Lil Jordan Humphrey, like, he's volatile in the way that like Kayshon Boutte is, or Pop Douglas, where, you get kind of enthralled by seeing him perform well against a good team. And, all of a sudden, you want to start him, but then like after a quarter or two, you see he's got like one or two targets, and it's like, man, like I should have known, like this guy is who we thought he was, and I don't think that Lil Jordan Humphrey is going to necessarily turn into a guy on maybe his third or fourth team that, after this Eagles game, that's truly a breakout for him. I think I saw it as more of a Quinion Mitchell was hurt. There's no one that of really great size on that Eagles secondary. And, you've got a guy who's 6'4" who can just go up and get it. And that's kind of what he did. I will say for a couple of waiver targets, if they're still available, I really, really love Luther Burden this week. I think he's a guy that if DJ Moore misses, that you can just straight up plug and play. He's I don't think I really need to go into what happened to DJ Moore. I think you guys can, look that up. It's not great. I think Luther Burden, he's a guy that I think is one of those second half breakout receivers, especially in a Ben Johnson offense. That could be great. Jalen Coker, strong end to last season, tall, and is going to command the wide receiver 2 targets against all of the number 2 corners. And he played great last season. And then obviously a guy like Bam Knight, the same thing with Bam Knight as it would be for Woody Marks and all of these other guys. You just want to take your shot at the guy that you think could have the highest value. I think Bam Knight's probably a lot better of a decision than like a Michael Carter, especially because Bam Knight got the touchdown last weekend. But those are 3 guys that I really do think if they're still on your waiver wire, they're worth rostering. And I think Luther Burden right now is a must roster type of player.
I couldn't agree more with that guy for sure.
Yeah. I mean, he's great. He's been playing great. I think what I look for in rookies when it comes to breakouts is, does this guy make the most of his opportunities? You see a lot of guys, just because I'm a Patriots fan, I can bring up Kyle Williams. Kyle Williams has seen the field a little bit, but he's, not really catching anything. He's not really getting targeted. When Luther Burden's getting targeted, he's making the most of all of those targets. And I really do think that that's a guy that, if DJ Moore is out, Frank, maybe that's the waiver wire guy, for the rest of the season. If DJ Moore misses this week and Burden has a big game, I don't know if he's given that spot up. I don't know if he gives it up. the rest of the season. I think he becomes a lot more of a targeted player. I think, we're starting to notice the pass funnel in Chicago. And I think Luther Burden could get those DJ Moore targets. I
literally was I'm trying to finish up the trade. Sorry, really, guys.
Yeah, no,
I was texting a little bit. But I couldn't agree more with Luther Burden. I have him. I drafted him literally with one of my last picks in a keeper league that I have. Ooh. And I've been adding and dropping him on occasion, but I think I'm going to hold on to him going forward now because I had to make some moves and whatever. And now if I hold on to him, he'll be like my 15th pick next year.
Of course,
he'll move up one pick, and I'll end up with like right now probably a wide receiver 2, and then hopefully into something better as he progresses in his career. But I mean, obviously, we got a wide receiver 1 over there. So moving on here, what do we got here? Those are some of the guys we were just talking about. Lee 86. Anybody curious about? Okay, we live with Humphrey, especially versus Denver too. Probably not too much.
I went over that one.
Mr. Bakes a lot here is what up, homies? What's up? Would you trade 2 2026 first for Jackson Dart?
No.
That's way too much.
The reason why, and you could say this about any.
You could draft your own Jackson Dart for that.
Nah, man, not even that. I'm saying like, man, Mr. Bakeslaw, it'd be nice if you could put in if you think that you'll be contending next year. Or not, let us know, because man, if there's one piece of Dynasty advice, that I could give in here that isn't a part of the actual Dynasty show, man, take those 2 2026 firsts and shop them and get some 2027s. You need to get yourself a Powerball ticket because there's 2 jackpots that you can win this next season. It's Jeremiah Smith and it's Ryan Williams. If you can go out and you can trade straight up a 2022 sixth, or sorry, a 2026 first for a 2027 first of a bad team, man, go out and do it because, this wide receiver class, they're good. Jordan Tyson is all right. And, Malachi or Makai Lemon or whatever his name is going to be pretty good. But man, I'm telling you, it's like, you've got some golden geese in that 2027 class. The running backs are great. The receivers are great. Like, I think, Frank, that 27 class is going to be one of those Jamar Chase, Penei Sewell, where it's like,
yeah, he's saying Jeremiah Love looks nice as well.
Yep. I think the league is going to look different after the 27 class, and it's a weird.
I like your take. I mean, if you're getting those numbers for Jackson Dart, because you could draft the Jackson Dart, is what I'm saying.
Course. And Jackson Dart was a guy that Frank went in like the 2nd or 3rd round of Dynasty leagues this year.
Yeah,
like you can find one of those. I'm not even kidding. I drafted.
I like your thinking. Just take those picks. You could do one this year, one next year. You got a 26 and a 27.
Man, I'm not even.
You got
kidding.
These guys coming up.
I blew up my whole Dynasty team this last offseason, and I think out of my 10-team Dynasty league, I own 8 2027 first-round picks. I own 8 out of the 10, and it's because if you can guarantee yourself Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams, like, man, you could have me at your wide receiver 3, and you're probably winning most weeks if you've got both of those guys in there. It's a class that I think is impossible to miss. And a lot of people right now, man, they're not paying attention. They're not paying enough attention to the 27 class. I think a lot of people, they want the instant gratification of, the Mendoza or I forget his name, but the quarterback for Oregon who's playing well. What is it, like David Moore or something? I'm not sure. But there are a lot of good players in this class. But hey, man, if you can afford to wait a year, them 2027 players, they're no joke.
There you go. That's the take. Get your trades in, get your pick in, and build for the future. This Dart could be like Jaden Daniels. I saw him running and making quick decisions, and once Neighbors comes back, it's on. Yeah,
he could, but you got to realize too, though, they're gonna go through a coaching change. I don't anticipate that Brian Daboll is after everything that we've heard, that Daboll and Shane are the long-term futures of this Giants team. You know, there's going to be a lot of change. You know, Andrew Thomas is their only good lineman at the moment. You know, I think we're going to look at Dart for his first couple of years as more of a game manager, and allowing, you know, that like unstoppable front seven to get home. You know, if you do feel that strongly about Jackson Dart, I would offer a first. I wouldn't offer 2 firsts, because, you know, we've got a lot of teams this upcoming season, Frank, that in the draft that aren't terrible teams. They just need quarterbacks, like the Saints, you know, the Cardinals. You know, there are a lot of teams that are going to take these first round quarterbacks that I don't think are bad rosters. I just think that they're not great because they don't have a QB right now.
He says, I'm hunting those 2027 first later in the year. I'll still have 2 2026 first left as collateral.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Go. I like it. I wouldn't trade 2 firsts for Dart, but I definitely would. If you can get a deal for him, then I would get that done. I do think that, you know, if you can find a guy with better tools like Mendoza, who, I mean, even this year, man, Cam Ward, he went like the 6th pick in some leagues. You know, I think that you can really find some talent in the first round without having to spend. I don't know, if I told you had the 1st and the 2nd pick in this 2026 draft, do you think that both of those picks are worth Jackson Dart? I'm not sure if I would agree with that sentiment, you know?
Yeah. All right, so let's see. Before we get out of here, just want to give up some names real quick, because we already kind of are in here. Travis Etienne Jr., he's high on the trade chart right now, but he does have consistent volume deposit despite a recent dip in production. So keep an eye on him. One of my favorite guys is Michael Pittman Jr. Yep. He's super undervalued. He's got, despite being WR3 13 ranking, he's got 4 touchdowns in 5 weeks. You definitely go out and get him by low. Again, the Indianapolis Colts are doing very well this year. Rico down on Cap Scoutaboo. Basically, people are just trying to sell high on those guys now. You know, against Rico Dowdle, because you got Chuba coming back. Cap Scoutaboo, I think that, you know, blew his wide. He's not going to get another 3 touchdown game. But from what I've seen to the guy, I personally would be buying Cap Scoutaboo if somebody's selling him. I don't think he's going to have another 3 touchdown game. Who knows? Maybe he will, but definitely a 1 and 2 touchdown games will keep going, and production will be good with him. So I'd be happy to own him. I would not be like worried about having that guy. Another guy here, we got finally Lad McConkey, basically sell high. You know, what Quentin Johnson comes back from the injury, his numbers are going to dip a little bit, and hasn't been that great this year. He's had better years. I think Quentin steals the show for him a little bit. You know what I mean? And then Jaylen Warren also, you know, just some trade targets to be looking at. Some people to be going after. Or the guys with injuries like Puka Nacua is down right now. Chris Godwin. I think you were just saying Calvin Ridley, not the guy to have, right?
Please don't take Calvin Ridley. Sorry.
I just want to shoot a couple last names here. You know, I got a number of players here that we were talking about, but I think you kind of covered in and talking everybody's chats and, you know, talking to the people here. Mr. Baker's last skill going around about he said if Dart could do this against the Super Bowl winning Eagles defense and the rest of the difficult schedule for the next few weeks, this is the cheapest you can buy him, in my opinion, if he succeeds. I think the Eagles kind of beat themselves, quite honestly.
Yeah, and I would consider that like the Super Bowl winning Eagles defense, considering, you know, they lost Milton Williams to the Patriots. They lost who was it? Bryce. It wasn't Bryce Huff, was it? They lost an edge guy to the 49ers. You know, Jalen Carter was out for the game. Quinion Mitchell got hurt midway through the game with a hamstring. and that offense has been kind of sputtering. The Giants didn't really need to have a shootout. They just needed to not make mistakes. And that's exactly what they did. And that's the thing is, man, when Jackson Dart isn't making mistakes, he's going to be a very efficient fantasy quarterback. But I think, though, that, man, a guy like Fernando Mendoza, I think that he's a guy that, very similar to a Cam Ward, a Drake May, a Caleb Williams, a Jaden Daniels. He comes in and you're expecting him to be good. Whereas with Jackson Dart, there's still a question mark there. This guy's still a rookie. And we're yet to see, what he can really do down the stretch. I think he's played, Frank, 3 NFL games in his career. So,
it's too early to tell.
Yep.
Dable can't save his job yet, and I don't discount the Giants' defense.
The Giants' defense is phenomenal. I mean, that front 7 is terrifying. I know that Lee just popped in with another question. He said, is Oronde Gadsden a decent pickup? I do think Oronde Gadsden should be rostered in leagues. Do I think that he's a guy, if you've already got 2 tight ends better than him, that you should hold on to and try to sell? I don't think so. But I do think if you need tight end help, and I probably should have mentioned this earlier, Oronde Gadsden's a good choice. I think the tight end out in San Francisco is a good choice. I think Jonnu Smith this week is a good choice. You've got a lot of guys right now that you can go and pick up and just plug and play for the week if you need some help. But I wouldn't count on Gadsden like this season to be a rest of season good pickup. I would consider him to probably be like one of my later round sleepers next year.
There you go. I like him. On that note, we appreciate y'all being here with us tonight. For the guys here at the show, we got every week here, as I mentioned earlier, and we got Fantasy Football Tavern here with the I didn't think of his name, and we got Phil with the extra point. But no more Tavern. I got to tell Mike to fix this thing with the boardroom thing. Unfortunately, he's not around.
Hey, Tycoon, if you're in here, we love you.
Yeah.
Say it every week.
Exactly. Exactly. You get in here one of these days. On that note, thank you for being here with us. Appreciate it. We'll see you guys on Monday. Peace out.
Peace out, y'all.
Fantasy is the play. Marking nothing but I tune every Friday. Strategies provided.